the way your faith is put in the Bible and the way that God explains it and that Jesus explains it is that even a child can understand, right?
Mhm.
And faith is so simple. We put our faith in everything every day. This chair, do we test it out? Do we test the table out? No,
Yeah.
we don't, right? A child in a pool, hey, jump to dad. Yeah, sometimes they're edgy, but eventually they do it, right?
Right.
And so I think when people um, can kind of make it their own with obviously the guidance of other individuals who have the testimony, right? And who see the whole, oh, well, this person doesn't react the same way. Why is that? Questions start getting asked.
Welcome to Faith in the Line of Duty, a podcast where real people in uniform share how their faith in Christ has carried them through the toughest moments. I'm Daniel Johnson, husband, father, and currently active duty in the United States Air Force. Each episode, I sit down with military members and first responders to talk about the power of the gospel, the strength of community, and how faith transforms lives, even in the line of duty.
The views expressed in this podcast are those of the host and do not constitute endorsement by the Department of Defense, Department of the Air Force, or the U.S. government. Now here's your host, Daniel Johnson.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the first episode of Faith in the Line of Duty. It's great that you're here with us today. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Staff Sergeant William Devenney. He and I have had the pleasure of serving in and outside of the military for the last 4 years. Some of his accomplishments include the Top Cop Award. He's a 2-time Airman of the Quarter winner at both the squadron and group levels, the MSG's Airman of the Year. He was awarded the ALS Commandant Award, 3 Air and Space Achievement Medals, 2 Outstanding Performers, was selected for Senior Airman Below the Zone, graduated Canine School, DoD MWD Trainers Course, Expert Defender Course, and Breachers Course. And finally, outside of the Air Force, him and I had the pleasure of serving in the Clinton Police Department in Missouri, which is it's definitely going to have a lot of memories that we'll be able to share for a long time.
Definitely.
Yeah, so
Definitely
just appreciate you being here for the first episode. Definitely excited to get started. Let's just give a little introduction about yourself, what your childhood was like, and if there was like any moments that like kind of shaped you as a kid.
Sure. So grew up in Tennessee and was there until I turned about 8, or at least it was in the 5th grade. Then moved to Kentucky, and then from there my dad got a job in Del Rio, Texas, and was there from the age of 15 till about 26 when I joined the military.
Wow.
So I joined late in life. I would definitely say something that kind of shaped me growing up was my dad and my grandfather and me sometimes would go out and work together. I say work. I was a kid, so I was just the gopher.
Yeah.
But watching, so my grandfather worked for an air conditioning company, and we would like on Saturdays go with him. And so for my dad to be working on his day off was kind of unique, but it also allowed us to just kind of like bond together um as a family and as the men of the house, if you will. And it was something that's definitely left an impact with me because I saw the work ethic of both of them. And I think that's something that talks about who I am today, is learning that work ethic from them, but also like my grandfather teaching my dad air conditioning stuff when my dad didn't even work, at the time in air conditioning. So, but still that mentorship that he had, and then teaching me, it was a lot of fun growing up. I remember love to go to work with my granddad, and then to have my dad there too. It really meant a lot. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I can honestly say I didn't know that about you. I know you had a good work ethic. You don't like to stay stagnant. You're always trying to continue to improve yourself. So that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. That's good. What do you do now, and what drew you into security forces?
So what drew me first into the Air Force was my grandfather. My grandfather worked in the Air Force, and his love and passion for it was, um, it was just next level. He was so proud to be in the Air Force, especially at a time when he served in Vietnam. And that was very hard and it wasn't appreciated, but that love and the passion that he had is what drove me to want to be in the Air Force first and foremost. And so I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps and join the Air Force. Secondly, um, I don't like, how do I put this? Factory work. I don't
Yeah.
want to work on an assembly line
Yeah.
and do the same mundane thing every day.
Right.
And so actually the recruiter um, offered me a job, and the first job was a maintainer with like a bonus or something like that. And I turned it down. I was like, no way. I do not want to just turn a wrench and work on the same thing every day, whether it's putting in a seat and it's the same seat every day. No way.
Yeah.
I wanted something that was going to be exciting, but also my day was constantly changing. I knew security forces. I wanted to do something in law enforcement. Most of my family is in law enforcement. My uncle's a cop in Nashville, Tennessee. Grandfather was sheriff, that kind of stuff. So I kind of had that background already and enjoyed that aspect of it, of working and dealing with people. I've kind of always thought people are interesting. Definitely, I'm a people watcher.
Mhm.
So that kind of drew me to it. Also, I knew that within security forces, you weren't limited on bases, which was huge. I can go
Mhm.
anywhere in the world. And then two, from there, I can do so many different things. So I can go investigations. I can get sniper certified. I can be a breacher. And so that kind of stuff appealed to me just because I'm able to just not, like you were saying earlier, not be stagnant and doing the same mundane thing. So
So with all those stuff that you explained, all those
yeah.
different courses and career fields, what made you want to go canine?
Oh man. Um so I'd always been drawn to canine. I enjoyed watching like canine demonstrations, but I think definitely the thing that sent it over the top was as you were my what do you want to call that? Mentor, if you will,
Hmm.
and kind of put me underneath your wing, and I was your prospect. That's what I'm looking for. Um, at the time, I had never, or on base, we never really seen canine except for in the morning.
Hmm.
But you were the first one that was actually out there, jobbing it, and you definitely made it seem fun and enjoyable. But I could tell it was demanding, and that was something I
Hmm.
was looking for. I
Right.
wanted something that was demanding that meant I actually had to work instead of just sit back and relax and or watch a fence, you know? And so it always seemed like you were busy. You were go, 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 go.
Hmm.
And there was like, you didn't even have a moment to breathe, it felt like.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do,
Hmm.
something like that. And then I saw the work that was put into the dog and the fact that every day is something new with your dog. You're constantly working on something. You're doing something new. Sometimes there's spontaneous recovery, and so then you're trying to fix a problem that you know the dog's was good on, and it's just constant training. And I enjoy training a lot,
Hmm.
and that was I think one thing that drew us together too was exercises, and I was always trying to train and better myself, not only as a human being but also as a cop, as a security forces member, and that's also what drew me to that. And so started coming out prospecting and seeing really what canine was like, and I think that's what really drew me to it. It was kind of a work ethic that I was looking for, um, and absolutely fell in love with it. Probably more than you'll ever know, honestly. Like that's one thing that I I don't think I could ever get tired of, or I find myself thinking about it constantly. It's I don't even view it as work anymore. It's a passion, and I would love to go so far into canine.
Hmm.
Um, But yeah, that's kind of how I ended up becoming king. Now, I will say though, originally, I was trying to get a job in the training section because again, I love training, right?
Right. Right.
And I have some very small medical background, and I enjoy that aspect of it as well. But I think um, I was trying to go that route, and you helped steer me in a way that has allowed me to be a trainer more so than I would have been in the training section. I've had over 23 prospects, and I've sent at least 8 off to handlers course. So I think I've made a bigger impact from you, um, guiding me in that direction.
Yeah, yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I remember whenever you started going there, I definitely wasn't easy on you. I
No.
grilled you with a ton of questions,
Oh,
but
man,
I
it was
think whenever
nuts.
you see, a lot of potential in someone, you definitely just want to be harder on them. You really want to make sure that they're good. Um, and I knew that, as I was pressing you and, trying to make sure that you knew your stuff, you kept on coming back. And
Yeah.
that's how you can kind of tell the people that really want to do it if they
Exactly.
come back and if they can handle the pressure of it. Because not only are you responsible as a patrolman, for knowing how to, operate in a LE environment,
Right.
you also, are responsible for your dog too. So
Oh, yeah.
I think that's really important. But that's good to hear.
Yeah, it was there were some days I was like, "Holy cow, this." I think I remember telling you too, like, Canine's a different language. Like, you're speaking English to me, yes, and I understood the cop side of things, and I feel like I had that down. But when you bring Canine in, it is literally a different language, and I think I remember telling you that very early on, and I was blown away. But I enjoyed it. I was hungry for that. So
Yeah, no, definitely. So I kind of want to go into what you do now because
yeah.
you're still Canine at Dias Air Force Base. So can you just explain what that's like? Just like an
Um,
average day.
Yeah, man. Average day, we get up, we feed the dogs. There's a timeline on, when we're allowed to train afterwards, just due to allowing the dog to digest their food. So we go out, we train pretty much all day long. We don't work the road as of right now, which is a unique side of things, but I think it allows us to do a lot of training. It's good for us. And then all we do is missions and deployments. So last year we had 2 dogs that were deployed, and the rest of us were a small kennel. So the 4 of us would literally just TDY. It was an election year, so that was
Real
huge.
busy.
Really, really busy. We were ranked number 3. Our base was ranked number 3 out of um, DoD. So I believe, or it could have been Air Force, but I think that speaks volumes as far as like how much we were gone. Roughly about 255 days out of the year on TDYs. So missions that would last from, a day, 2 days typically, to a month. I know I was gone for a month on mission. So yeah, it's insane. It's a great experience, and it's a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
it's a lot of work.
And you get to, what other agencies do you get to work with whenever you're going on these missions?
Sure. So it man, I love networking, right? And you work with HSI, state troopers, your FBI, ATF, um, Secret Service. So every aspect that it takes to put on to have a secure site for whether it's the president of the United States or it's the governor. Secret Service does it. We're doing it too. And along with whatever law enforcement agencies are going to be there to support and help out. So I've met a wide range of people, whether it's UD Canine or it's state troopers, even local sheriffs, to Texas Rangers, SWAT team. We work with them all, and so it's a lot of fun. You're making connections, you're building connections. Um, Texas CID, so their Criminal Investigation Division. Um, you're just meeting and building those connections, and it's wonderful, honestly.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And how long would you say you were gone? last year?
pretty much all year long. From the moment I got on base, they were trying to fast track me to get me validated, certified, and then after that, it was right out the door.
Hmm.
So I think I wasn't even on base for about a month, and they were already sending me out the door.
Wow.
So the first one was to Seattle. So
And how was that, for your family, being gone that much?
it was very rough, very very hard. I had already missed a lot just from BMT and tech school, and then my first base was a very demanding base as far as when it comes to work. So long hours from getting to work at 3:45 in the morning to stepping in the door and it'd be 8 o'clock at night sometimes. So or most of the time I should say. And then coming to this base, it seemed a little bit more relaxed, so I thought. But those TDYs, man, it was hard. So you're trying to navigate that because the difference in that job and what I was doing at my previous base, that was the mission. It was a home based mission, supported the base. And here, my actual work isn't like the work I was doing. The work that I'm doing now is to go out and support Secret Service. And so obviously that is one of the main priorities, especially as Canine. And so doing that was a huge learning curve for both me and my family. But then you try to find different ways to make it work. Where when you come home, you try to be home as much as possible.
Right.
And for me, that's hard, especially with my work ethic. Being given days off more than what I'm used to was hard for me, especially because mentally too, I'm always thinking about progressing and trying to progress my dog, what I need to work on. So we kind of had to establish some things where I was like, okay, hey, in the morning you take the kids to school, and so I would. We do um, family movie nights, or we'd go on a walk. Or recently we bought scooters, electric scooters. So
That's awesome.
we'd ride around electric
cool.
scooters, and so the kids love that. And then the other thing I do for my wife is every mission that I've gone on, I've brought her back a Starbucks mug.
Hmm.
So, and it says where from, which is really cool. We also
That's
do a map, and we have a map hanging, and we put a pin in everywhere that I've been. So, actually, I just got back from a mission, which is why I'm here. So I went to Abu Dhabi. So, but yeah, so this is the Abu Dhabi mug that I got her. So you guys are getting to see it before she does. So, and then we were back and forth to Germany. So, I think we stopped in Germany like 3 times and spent the night. So I figured, hey, I'm here this much. I might as well get a mug. So got her a Germany mug. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so she loves it. And it's kind of one of the big things like I really enjoy doing for her, and I kind of make it definitely a priority. So sometimes the eagerness to go on a mission is super high because I'm like, cool. And I try to go places that I have never been. Now, I've been to like Washington, D.C. like 5 times. I've been to Mar-a-Lago like 3 times. So I'm trying to pick missions where I haven't been just so I can get that mug. So she's got a really nice collection right now.
Yeah.
So,
Dang.
but yeah, these are good. And you guys are getting the first to see it before she does. So.
That's awesome. So yeah, thanks for showing us. That's pretty cool. But I want to dive in a little deeper for that. So as followers of Christ, what are some practical things that you do that definitely helps that, and that all that stuff is really good. And for example, I know one thing that you've always done, especially whenever you're gone, you always call home and FaceTime the kids, and you always pray with them.
Yeah.
And then you always make sure that they're always there, which is something that I definitely have admired, and kind of something that I've picked up on, and something that I do now too is, always making sure that I'm praying with them. But what would you say would be like another practical thing that, someone can do that's, constantly gone away from their family?
Sure. I definitely say FaceTime. I know you already mentioned it, but that's I think it's important because your kids are getting to see you, and then I'll pray with them, before going to bed. So it's the last thing they, remember before going to bed.
Mhm.
Um, Something as simple as, even here, I shouldn't say recently, but it it was kind of a problem with the time change, right? It was a 9-hour different time change, and so it made it very difficult. So one thing I was doing was I would actually record a video. So my kids love to when you FaceTime, they're like, "What does it look like outside?"
Yeah.
And even though like if we call you and FaceTime you, they want to know what does it look like outside? Is it light? Is it dark? And they kind of want to see. So whenever I was over there, they got to see that it was dark, but it was daytime where they were at, and
Mhm.
that just completely blew their mind. And so even though I wasn't actually able to FaceTime them, I made a video, and that's something that honestly, now that you brought it up, that's something I've done since me and my wife started dating. Was I made these little videos for her, the morning that I was gonna ask her to marry me.
Oh,
So
wow.
we could go back and look at it. And then right before I left to go to BMT, the night before, I made like 20 videos of me reading stories or me just talking to my daughter. So she could look back and watch. And she still like we had lost that iPad
Oh,
that I
no.
made it on for a while, and we found it. And so now that she's 7 years old, she goes back and she watches those videos and
That's
she
so cool.
remembers, and it's pretty cool. So videos, I definitely think are important, and I think that kind of helps them process the separation, and it's something that they can go to. Something my wife also did was she had a picture of me when I was in BMT up on the crib, and she would have Abigail say, "Good night, Daddy," and then kiss and like hug the picture. And
Jeez.
so yeah,
Over here gonna make me cry, man.
yeah. So um, I think that's something that we've tried to just keep up throughout the time. And so, like I said, when I was here, just a simple, quick video. Hey, hope you're having a good day. I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. Um, it's really nice too when Eunice will tell me like what's going on. So like I knew what today was going to be for them. So they got to dress up, and so I talk about it in the video, which makes them feel like I'm actually still a part, even though I'm gone. So.
Yeah. So you've had a remarkable career in the military and as a civilian police officer. Let's talk about that journey a little bit more.
Sure. Um, Man, so starting off, I told you I'd mentioned before that I joined when I was 26 years old. So I joined late in life. I had 4 part-time jobs in the beginning, so with 2 kids as well.
Wow.
And I was struggling to make ends meet. There was times where we had to make the decision on buying diapers or buying formula. And there were times where I know I would try to not eat just to allow my wife to eat. And there were times I know she would go without eating as well. And I could not live my life that way anymore. I felt like I knew I was letting my wife and my kids down, but also my parents and my grandfather. Their work ethic it was something that they were known for. Everyone knew and could depend on my grandfather. And they knew his name. And I didn't want to to be the one that drug my family name into the dirt, right? There was the name Devenney meant something where we were at. And so I wanted to continue that. And so I sat down and I talked to her and I was like, "Look, uh, I've got to do something else." And I really believe that joining the military is the best option. It it was extremely hard to get out of Del Rio. It was hard to get a job. I tried working for the local police department. That didn't work out. And I'd worked for TSA a little bit, but the shortly thereafter, the airlines down there shut down. So finding a job was very difficult.
Wow.
And so I needed to be able to provide for my family. So which is what led me again to join the Air Force and to make that push. And then while I was in, again, I wanted to continue to better myself and learn. And so I had an opportunity to work as a reserve police officer for Clinton. And I've always known that the military was a stepping stone for me because I wanted to be competitive when I got out. And I didn't just want a degree because I knew that most companies nowadays, a degree doesn't mean anything. Everyone has a degree. Everyone's got a bachelor's. You have to have a master's or a doctorate. And even then, I know an individual who has a doctorate and she is having an extremely hard time getting a job. And I didn't want that. And so the people that are not having a hard time are people that have experience, that have certifications, or that have been in the military. And so that's the route I took. And that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to be a reserve officer for Clinton was, again, to set myself apart from others, to be competitive, and for them to kind of to pick me over somebody else.
Yeah, it's got to be really tough, just not being able, to provide, but just still trying to really, really work hard.
Yeah.
But so, you're obviously security forces, and you work together with me in Clinton, and I know, just working with you there, just helping people, was, you just felt like you knew what you're doing was right, and that was your calling. What would you say would be your most memorable moment from working in Clinton?
So the most memorable moment was we had just got hired on with them, and we were still in civilian clothes, but we were allowed to carry a firearm, right? And so I was with Officer Hartwick and doing a ride along with him, and you had suggested that I do one with him. Great guy, very proactive.
Very proactive,
right?
Yeah.
And so something that we both enjoy. And we were driving, and we clocked somebody going 30 miles over the speed limit, and he whipped around fast on that one. And so we get up, and this was at night, and as we go up behind the car, the guy slams on his brakes and immediately jerks the steering wheel over to the right side to get off the shoulder. But he was in the farthest left-hand lane, right? Lane 1. And then immediately goes over within maybe like 300 feet. And Officer Hartwig looks over at me, and he's already taken his seatbelt off. The door's already open as we're driving and slowing down. And he's like, "Get ready." He looks at me. He's like, "Get ready." And I was like, "Oh boy, this is real."
Yeah.
Like, that's when it hit me. Like,
you're not on base anymore.
Exactly. There's a huge difference. And so, and he had put the spotlight on the individual, and the individual is throwing his hands up. He's digging in the back seat. He's opening the glove box, and he hits his side mirror, and to get the spotlight off of him. And you can tell this guy is amped up. It looks like he's ready for a fight. And Officer Hartwig gets out, immediately goes to the passenger side. He's got his flashlight on him, and already has his gun drawn and off to the side, right? And I'm right behind Officer Hartwig, and I'm standing there, and I'm observing. And I see the gun down, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I should have my gun out too." Like, this is a very real moment.
Right.
There's no reason why I shouldn't have my gun out. There's no reason I shouldn't be on alert right now. This individual is giving all of the signs that he's ready for a fight, and he could be hostile, right?
Yeah.
Even Officer Hartwig literally said, "Get ready," And so I just remember like slowly pulling my gun out and keeping it down at low ready, which was where Officer Hartwig had it. It was at low ready, just in case, right? To make sure that, yes, he gets home and I get home that night. And then from there, the demeanor and the way Officer Hartwig handled that situation immediately de-escalated that individual. And Officer Hartwig was able to put his weapon back in and get the guy's ID and kind of talk to him. And completely, it went from Mach 10 down to like 3 mile an hour in a school zone, right? So it was crazy, the difference that took. And then I remember later on, Captain Abbott talking about, hey guys, look, if the hair on the back of your neck is standing up, draw your weapon, like have it out. He's like, I would much rather you have it out and ready than you die and your gun still be in your holster kind of thing. And that was
Yeah.
very new to me, especially being in the Air Force. It's the whole see a weapon, charge your weapon kind of thing. And
Right.
and you don't do that.
So let's shift gears a little bit and let's
Sure.
just talk a little bit more about your faith, how it's grown and what it means to you. So for someone that's struggling to take that leap of faith, what would you say to them, to believe in God and, try to follow after Jesus?
I would say make it your own. I think a lot of times Christians get a bad rep on within Christianity and within our, I don't want to say culture, but within our denomination, some can be taken to an extreme, right? Where it's very forceful. And I think when people have the opportunity to make it their own, you can tell it's real, right? There's no question about it. They don't question it. They don't it's very evident for them. And I think that's important is make it your own. And it's something too, like as Christians in a high stress environment, in a workplace like the military or in law enforcement, or first responder or whatnot, a lot of times talking about it can be very difficult for some people and can be one of those touchy subjects. But I was surprised because that was one thing, like my parents didn't want me joining the military, and I didn't realize how many people actually go to church that actually do believe in God until I got in and people would talk about it and you'd be like, oh, what? You go to church too? Oh, okay. Where do you go? Kind of thing. Even recently on this mission to Abu Dhabi, right? We were sitting in the pool and there was a situation that had happened to an individual who was at a very low. I told you the story, and I don't want to broadcast the story, but at that moment, he kind of said that's when he reached out to God, and for him it was very evident, and it was. I could tell that it had an impact on him, and then two, that it was something that he took very seriously, and he also said, "I I did it myself." And you think about it too, the way your faith is put in the Bible and the way that God explains it and that Jesus explains it is that even a child can understand, right?
Mhm.
And faith is so simple. We put our faith in everything every day. This chair, do we test it out? Do we test the table out? No,
Yeah.
we don't, right? A child in a pool, hey, jump to dad. Yeah, sometimes they're edgy, but eventually they do it, right?
Right.
And so I think when people um, can kind of make it their own with obviously the guidance of other individuals who have the testimony, right? And who see the whole, oh, well, this person doesn't react the same way. Why is that? Questions start getting asked. I know I've had questions asked to me when it was like, dude, you had every right to blow up and just go off on this person, and you didn't.
Yeah.
Why? What's the difference?
Right. And it says in the Bible, they'll know you by how you love others.
Mhm.
So I think that's a big part too. And
Yeah.
and I think we all get to the point where, even if you go to church, I grew up in church all my life,
Yeah.
but I still had to make that choice. Like, I have to surrender my life to the Lord. And,
Yeah.
I feel like you definitely have to get to that place of, surrender for that. But what would you say was your point of surrender? I know that you also, grew up in church. You were, a pastor's kid. So
Yeah.
when did you kind of realize, hey, no, this isn't just something we do. This is, what I need to do.
I don't know if there was ever like a defining moment, right? I think so. I was saved at a very early age. I was in kindergarten when I got saved, and then it always felt like it was a dream to me. And at the time, a lot of people were pushing out, well, if you don't know the exact day, the exact time, and you're not really saved, you should know that because it's so impactful and everything like that. And that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was worried about it, and there were some doubts, and I just wanted to get it settled. So I remember at VBS, it was a space theme, and I got reassurance of my salvation. And I would say probably about then, I think I was around 11 years old. I would say if I look back on it, that might be the defining moment where it was like, okay, because I knew I had it settled, right? I knew that there was no doubt and that this was something that is real and it's not a dream.
Right.
So
That's pretty cool.
I think that's what I would have to say.
Gotcha. And what piece of advice would you give to like a younger airman that's trying to, that has made that step and, surrendered their life to God? What's some advice that you would give them to kind of those next steps?
It kind of goes back to what I said earlier, is making it your own. You've got to form your own relationship. You've got to be willing to dig and be willing to humble yourself and say, no, this is what I need. But at the same time, finding good men and women in your life. Get in a small group. I think that right there, the accountability, the meeting once a week, whether or every other week right now, which is what we're doing right now because life is extremely stressful and we've had a lot going on. So now we're meeting every other week and I miss it. I wish we would meet every week, but we're constantly checking up on each other. And we're texting each other asking, hey, how's your week going?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you definitely need those fellow believers. Find, ask. Like I said, you'd be surprised at how many people actually go to church that are in the military that, yeah, they might not say anything because I think sometimes we are shy in it because, again, it's a touchy subject. But once you find that person, stick with them and learn from others. Like I said, get in a small group. I think that would really help you out as a new member. Get in a Sunday school class, whether it's a college and career, young adult, young married class. Get into a class and be surrounded by people.
I also think that a big part of that is having a mentor too.
Mm-hmm.
And just someone that can walk alongside you and disciple you. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. All right, so you have throughout your career, at Whiteman, you were an SRT trainer. You
Mm-hmm.
went Canine. You have a lot of prospects under you.
Mm-hmm.
So you've always tried to pour into others.
Yeah.
And just really try to train them and always just pass on the knowledge that you have. What makes you want to do that?
I've always enjoyed teaching, so I think that's a big part of it. I think the other part of it is I want to set others up for success. I want others to succeed, and I want others to grow and then be better than me. I told a lot of my prospects that I was like, hey, at some point I want you to be better than me. That's my goal and that's my drive for you. And I know when I was your prospect, that was my goal, was one day I want to be better than you. I want to be better than Sergeant Johnson. And so I tried to mold those individuals to want that, to be eager to learn, because there was a quote that I had heard. I'm kind of a gear junkie, right? I love a lot of the tactical gear, the stuff that makes your life easier. These trips, you've seen some of my gear that I've got for these trips that I've gone on, and I've kind of sent you videos on the newest things that I've gotten. But there was a quote that I heard that it goes along the lines of, and I know I'm butchering it, but basically knowledge is weightless, right? You can have all the fancy tools, you can have all the gadgets, But if you don't know how to use them, then you're just carrying weight around. That's it. It's just, you might as well be carrying rocks. And so I think having the knowledge and that know-how and then giving that to people is huge, especially because I would also say in our line, everyone likes to hold on to that knowledge. And it always frustrated me so much when, because I had goals. I had things that when I joined the Air Force, I wanted to make BTZ. I wanted to make staff my first time. I wanted to get these different certifications. And I was just held back so much within my first year that I was like, why? Why would you hold somebody back? It always blew my mind. And so I never wanted anyone to experience that. I never wanted to hold anyone back. I just wanted to feed, if they were willing to learn, I just wanted to feed them everything I could. There were times where even when I PCS, that I would still reach back to some of the handlers that I had trained and fed them information. Hey, go watch these videos. Hey, this is great. Hey, I learned this. And so I'm feeding them. So that way, one, I want them to stay hungry. And two, again, I want to set them up for success, to make them better than me, and to continue to learn and grow. So,
Yeah, I think that's definitely so important. So what's next for you? I know how many years have you been in now?
6.
6.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. What's new for you? What are you looking forward to here in the near future?
Sure. So I'll be getting out in December. I've applied to be a Texas State Trooper. I have goals within that as well. With getting to do a lot of these missions, networking, there's an individual that I got to meet, and so I'm going to reach out to him. And obviously, I want to do Canine, but I want to be a part of their SWAT, Special Operations Group. And so I think there's like one spot for Canine, and that's it. And that's what I want
That's
to be.
your spot.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of told him, I was like, hey, I'm going to hit you up. So just be ready.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what the next step looks for me is getting out. Like I said, I wanted to use the Air Force as a stepping stone, and I think it's going to pay off in the long run. It's been hard. It's been difficult. I wouldn't change it for anything. I've enjoyed my time in the military, and I've grown a lot, and I want to use that experience to then make myself better and make troopers around me better.
Yeah. So, with your, dad being a pastor, did you feel like you were, pressured, feel pressure to do that? Or, what was that like, being a pastor's kid?
It was tough. It's like living in a glass house. There is a lot of pressure on you. You're watched all the time. So sometimes the slightest mistake that you make can get blown out of proportion. But at the same time, it has its advantages. We lived in a prophet's chamber, and so I was able to, after homework, I could go downstairs and play in the gymnasium. So that was a lot of fun. Play basketball, do whatever. So like I said, it has perks, but it was very difficult. There was a lot of pressure there too, that you just felt. As a pastor kid, you were kind of viewed as, okay, you're the next, song leader, you're the next youth pastor, children's pastor. So it was difficult. And then, like I said, that pressure then to go to a Bible college, which I did. I went to a Bible college for 2 years, but I was miserable the entire time. And it wasn't for me. And people could tell that I was miserable. Not everyone is supposed to be a pastor. Not everyone is supposed to be a youth pastor. So, and I think that's why I was miserable, is because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do, right?
So just take a step back. One thing, about being a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you had a little bit, more knowledge about the Bible? Because I have a lot of respect for your dad, and I've called him, multiple times, just get his, advice on it. And one thing that he always does is, he backs up with scripture, and he just always points to Jesus whenever you talk to him. So, do you, throughout your childhood, what was that like, just to have that fatherly figure that was like that? And then how do you, plan to do the same thing for your kids?
my dad didn't actually become a pastor until I was 15, 16. He did work with the youth when I was, I think, like 8 or 10. And so, but again, it was never forced, right? They wanted me to seek that relationship on my own, right? So it wasn't necessarily like, hey, you need to have devotions every morning, right? You know, you need to, before bed, you need to be on your knees and saying your nightly prayers. That was never forced upon me. That was never. There were times where we would try to have family devotions, and then sometimes just life happens, and so we stopped. And I think at times they might regret it, but I want them to know, like, no, they're like, I don't regret it, because it meant, like I said, it had to become my own, right? And that's the only way it's supposed to happen, right? Again, there was a lot of knowledge about the Bible, but it was given to everyone. It wasn't just like me, it wasn't like in the house I'm getting preached to. So, yeah.
That's good. Yeah. So what's your favorite Bible verse and why?
Psalms 82, 3 and 4. Talks about defending the poor and the fatherless. And I think that speaks to me, because that's my passion. And that's, something that helping people out. I've always enjoyed helping people out, taking care of people that can't take care of themselves. And so, I can look it up and I can read it for you, but yeah, the Psalms 82, 3 and 4. So you had asked too, what would I share with my kids, right? Or want, basically probably the same thing that my parents did, right? I wanted to become their own. It's not something I'm going to force. Yes, we'll sit down. We'll have nightly prayers like we do. My wife reads a Bible bedtime story to them every night. But allowing them, like I've been talking about, is finding it on their own. Yes, we're still going to go to church. We're still going to do the right things. And I want them to see that, but I'm not going to force it down their throat. I'm also not going to use it like as a punishment. I don't want to use it as a punishment. I don't want to use it as, oh, well, if you mess up, then you need to, write out 15 Bible verses, right? Then that's going to turn them away. That's going to make them hate it, right? And I don't want that for them. I don't want them to see it as a punishment. I want them to see going to church as a punishment, or, oh, you have to, read your Bible. I want them to do it on their own. And I think, and I see it now where, my daughter will pray for her teacher, or she'll write her little notes and like, Jesus loves you or whatnot. And I've never asked them to do that, right? I've never, they get so upset when we don't go to church or we don't go to small group, right? Awesome. They hated it when we changed small group, because they knew every Friday night small group, right? And they got so disappointed. And they're constantly inviting their friends to church, right? And again, it's never been anything that I was like, hey, you should invite your friends to church. Hey, you should, see if they want to come or anything like that. They did it on their own. And I think that that's really helping them. And I think it's helping them grow, and they have that love on their own. So
yeah. And so one of the pastors at my church, one of the phrases that he said, and that's really stuck with me, is that, we should try to lead our family, as men, so that way, whenever they are off on their own, the most natural thing that they could do is to follow Christ. Right. And that's, definitely the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But parenting is tough, for sure.
It is.
That's cool.
It's something you're constantly worried about. But at the same time, like I said, I just want them to watch is all I want them to do. Just watch and learn, right? I think it's the easiest way is watch and learn, and then make it your own, figure it out for yourself. Not that I'm just going to be like, oh, hey, go ahead, figure it out. I'll be there for guidance, right?
Yeah.
But I also want them to see the work ethic that their dad has, that, hey, the Devenney name has a something to it, right? It was carried on by their grandfather and their great grandfather, and it goes back. And so that's something that I want them to see, is not only the, hey, I've made it my own, my faith my own, and I've made that decision to follow Christ, and going to church and having that relationship. I want them to see that and see the work ethic, and then just kind of follow my guidance, and um and let them make those decisions themselves with, like I said, with help.
So as you get out of the military, is there any memories that really stick out to you, whether that's from, your BMT tech school? Like what would be one story that you'd say is you'll definitely remember forever?
So there was a lot of fun things that I would say throughout BMT and tech school, but there was definitely one that stands out. Like, we did some fun things, like we played baseball in the dorms, or we played human battleship, and that was fun. But one absolutely hilarious story was week. It was, I'm trying to remember what week it was, but it was at least one of the last weeks, whether it was week 5 or 6. I can't remember which week, but we had to babysit baby flight, right? So we helped the MTIs out, and we helped get the new recruits ready for what BMT was going to be like. And so we assisted in different things, like making sure they had all the required equipment that they needed, and then getting them upstairs, teaching them how to make their beds, and basically making sure they had all their, like I said, required equipment, but then packed the right way. And then to also include getting them ready for bed, basically. And so the drill instructor called us into his office, me and I just had his name. But anyways, the recruit that was with me, and we go into his office. He's like, "Hey, I need you to get everyone showered and in bed." And it was a ridiculous time. Like, it wasn't gonna be met, right? But I was like determined. I was like, no, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make this timeline. There's no way we're not making this timeline, and I'm gonna be the first one to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. I talked to oh, it really makes me mad. I can't remember his name because I just had it the other day. But I'm talking to him. I was like, here's what we're gonna do. So we break it down. And I was like, all right, everyone, listen up. I want you to get undressed, grab your towels. Somebody go turn on all the showers. 'Cause there's like 10 showers, almost like in a circle. And so the idea was everyone's just going to put soap on, and then they were going to walk through the showers, and that's enough showers that they can get completely rinsed off and then dressed and in bed, right? I was like, this plan is going to work perfect. So I was like, all right, grab your soap, grab your towels, take the soap and put it on your head. And every single one of them literally grabs their shampoo bottle and goes like this and puts it on their head. And I look over at the recruit that was with me, and I was just like, I was blown away. I was shocked. I was like, what? And at the corner of my eye, when I looked over at him, farther back, I see the drill instructor, and he put his hand over his mouth and just put his head down and walked back to his office. And I
I mean,
was
they
like,
did that as they were told.
yeah, I mean, hey, come on. Hey, I got to give it to him, right? But I was just blown away. And I was like, no. I was like, and then I kind of got mad. I kind of got upset. I was like, are you guys like joking with me right now? Like, are you just trying to be funny? And, but I cooled down really quick. I was like, no, listen. I was like, take the soap, pour it on your head, scrub it, and then you guys are going to walk through in a line and scrub your bodies and just walk in a circle, let the water rinse you off. And so like, oh, okay. And so they did that. And anyways, got them also in bed, lights off, and we walked back, and that was the first story we had to tell. So lights went out, and I was like, guys, because I was also me and him were the first ones to actually do this. So no one else knew what it was like. So of course, when you come back, everyone's curious, like, what was it like? What did you guys do? They're asking you questions or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I was like, guys, you are not going to believe this. You will not believe how crazy this is. These guys have no clue what they're doing. Like, I mean, first of all, I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but still, absolutely hilarious. So we tell that story and we roll. Everyone's laughing. And that's something that too, like we created like a Snapchat, a group one with all of us. And so sometimes you'll see in the Snapchat, somebody just like randomly take a picture with a bottle of soap on your head just to remember and just to laugh at it. It was pretty fun.
Man, there's so many good memories from BMT. I think for me, the most memorable one would be, you know, you always got to have a wingman with you.
Right.
And it was on a Sunday, and we weren't thinking our MTI was going to be coming in.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they do the whole instructor coming in. So we knew he was coming in.
Sure.
Well, one of the smallest guys from our flight hid inside his wall locker.
Nice.
And he couldn't get out in time, so they just stuffed him in there. So he was there the entire time, and then we went downstairs, had dinner. We you know, did a little bit of a workout, but it's not like he could get out. So he just stayed up there the entire time and just waited until we got back, and then he finally got out. Didn't have any dinner, nothing.
Oh,
but it wasn't worth, you know, him walking down the stairwell by himself.
No, I wouldn't either.
So
not at all.
I was just like, I cannot believe that just happened.
That's crazy.
So,
yeah.
But well, hey, I really enjoyed talking with you for this first episode. A lot of the guidance and just the practical wisdom that you provided. Yeah, so I just really appreciate you coming on the show today. It was a lot of fun being able to hear your stories and your wisdom. Definitely looking forward to having you on here in the near future. And thanks again.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of Faith in the Line of Duty. If you're a first responder or in the military and have a story you'd like to share, email me at faithinthelineofduty@gmail.com. You could be a guest on a future episode. To continue the conversation, visit my Facebook and Instagram page. Thanks again for tuning in, and join me next time for another encouraging story of faith in the line of duty.